Hello, everyone, and welcome to Something to Talk About Live. My name is Liz Owen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Director of Communications at PFLAG National. It's so good to have you with us for another episode of our show, and this is going to be a good one. Book Nerds Unite. Speaking of book nerds, I'm going to bring on my good friend and our host, Jean Marie Nevada.
Liz Owen.
Jean Marie Nevada.
Look, I have props for this week. I'm so excited. I have my library card.
Nice.
Yeah, I got my library card. I have my favorite book from my school library when I was a little girl. We actually found a copy of it. It's out of print. My wife gave it to me many years ago. So
I didn't even know they were printing books back when you were a little. I'm kidding.
Wow,
so
Liz. Wow, kidding. You better get off camera right now.
I'm muting myself.
Friendship ending fast. Wow. That was like 15 years of friendship gone. Hey, everybody. The last day of my friendship with Liz Owen. My name is Jean Marie Nevada. My pronouns are she, her, and Egan if you use Spanish, and I'm the Director of Learning and Inclusion at PFLAG National. Every single week, we have been getting together to talk about something related to LGBTQ equality and inclusion. And this week, we are, as you already heard, being our big book nerd selves and celebrating National Library Week. So, if you didn't know this, about 172 million Americans every single year take advantage of library services here in the United States. And yet we know that our public libraries are definitely under fight from anything from book bans to approved book lists to even threats to close libraries because of ideological differences. So we are celebrating libraries today. So let me just get you set up for today's conversation. Online, we have got a link to our conversation, our article of the week, which is at straightforequality.org/STTA live. This week's article came from the New York Times. It is a beautiful piece. If you can take a look at it, if you have the ability to see images like that. It's called The Love Letter to Libraries, Long Overdue. It's got some amazing images of people taking advantage of their libraries and their communities, and talking about the value of libraries. And yet, as I said, we do know that libraries and librarians themselves are under fire. So this week's theme for National Library Week is There's More to the Story. And so we're going to get to the rest of that story now. And I want to bring in our two guests, both librarians, one middle school and one high school. I'd like to bring in Lisa and Julie. Hello, my friends.
Hello.
I'm so excited to see you both. I'm so excited to have you both. Of course, now I suddenly feel like I should be whispering because we're in the
library. No. That's not how libraries work these days.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy. I still feel like it's like a reverence when I walk in. Immediately my voice comes down and I kind of tiptoe. But I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. So I want to actually start the conversation by getting a little bit about your backgrounds. And I thought one of the questions I always love to ask people is how they got to where they are. And so I'd love to know why you became a librarian, because we're talking all about libraries and you do so much stuff. Maybe Lisa, we can start with you and then we'll jump over to Julie.
Sure. My way to the librarian world was circuitous at the best. I'm an actor. So, and I also love to read. So, I would read to my daughter forever and ever and ever. And then by the time she got to be around 7th grade, and I would do shows and we'd pass her off and stuff, my husband was like, well, I think might be time to go back into the working world since college is blooming. So the easiest thing, and it just sort of happened, was there was at this point in our school district, they had just started reintroducing librarians in the elementary schools. And they were still only part-time, which is ridiculous. But that's a whole other story. And so I ended up getting the job of part-time librarian at her elementary school. She was in middle school at the time, and then worked there part-time, and then went to and then doubled at a different elementary school with a different contact who pulled me over. So, and then ended up full-time at the middle school because I knew the principal at that point. She's like, let me bring you over full-time. So that was good because I could still do performing, and I was off at the same time as my daughter. So it's sort of like the moms all end up sort of in the school district in, because the timing works for you. You're off in the summer and you can still go to their events and you can still be a part of their lives. So that's how I ended up here. I happen to love it. And I love middle school. I loved elementary school too. I think that's kind of where we grabbed them. And I wish that we had full-time librarians there, because I think that's how you embrace the love of reading for kids. But middle school kids are fun, and their interests are varied, and I mean, it's just, and I'm really lucky here because I have a strong support system. I've had strong principal support. I've had 3 principals now, but I've had strong principal support in obtaining books and getting money for books and letting me choose the books.
Yes.
I follow authors. I'm a total book nerd myself. I follow authors on Twitter. I've met some of them over Twitter. I get free books that way. Had conversations with them. So I'm super, super lucky. And that's how I got here.
I love that. But I love that it was started with a love of books and a love of reading with your daughter, and it all turned into something so important. So, Julie, what was your path towards librarian?
My path also was very happenstance, I guess you would say. I started with the district, also, like Lisa said, to have my working hours align with my children going to school. So I was a one-on-one aide with a special needs student for years. I started that in 98. And then I had him all the way through. I was very fortunate. I had a great student to work with, and I loved it. And I had him all the way through. He was getting ready to graduate. And I was at the point where I'm like, okay, well, I can either see what kind of other student I get, or I can see what else is available in the district. And it just so happened that the library position came open right at that time. So I applied for it because I've always loved reading to my kids, and I loved the school that we were at. So I thought, I'm ready for something new. I think and it has been the most amazing job that I've ever had. I love it. And it's just a perfect fit because all I do is help people all day. And who wouldn't want to do that?
It kind of doesn't get better than that. And you're surrounded by books all day, helping
books
people and books.
Yeah.
And the high school kids, I know Lisa loves the middle school, but high school, I love them so much. Their energy. I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm not working here anymore, because the energy, I will really miss that.
I have a feeling there's probably a library that's looking for a volunteer to let you be with the kids again, too. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that. So thank you for that. And it really makes me happy to hear about how you got to where you are. And that it really is, it's an act of love. I mean, this is a labor of love, this kind of work, because it is difficult work. There are a lot of challenges, and yet there are so many benefits to it. So the article that we shared from the New York Times this week is very much a love letter to libraries. And I think also to the people who work there, the librarians, the people who help us find things. I can remember being in high school and having the librarians teach me how to locate things, how to use the different machines. This was before the internet and everything was on film, but hours and hours and hours of librarians sitting with me and helping me, teaching me how to become a good researcher. Yet we are at a time where people really do question the usefulness of libraries. There are so many people who say that they're not necessary anymore, but you're both in libraries where you are helping young people all the time. So I would love to hear from both of you, for people maybe who haven't been in their libraries lately and certainly haven't been in a school library lately. What kind of things are students looking for? What kind of services are you providing? Because it is more than just cataloging books. We all know that. And maybe Lisa, we can start with you.
Sure. It changes. It's so funny because, like you said, when you first said it was like, oh, I have to be quiet. But I think we've evolved, and I know Julie has as well, that it's more like a boys and girls club. It's an inclusive club where kids can feel comfortable. I mean, the whole point is not to have them afraid of going to the library or go, oh my God, it's awful, we have to be quiet. It's just, why would you even go there? It's just like dull and there's just books everywhere, right? And here it's like, oh no, it's fun. They're bright places to visit. You can play games. You know, I have board games that they can get to play, which kids don't play board games at home anymore. They're like, most of them don't even know how. Like, what is this? So they have to socialize, you know, and it's that obviously there's readers, and obviously they come in and they ask for certain types of books or even to find a book, you know. So there's that too. It's like, well, what do you like? And then they have to really decide, well, what do I like? You know, and so you can help. My goal is to find every kid a book, even, you know, there's that, I hate reading, whatever. But you don't really, they just hate reading the stuff that they're assigned, so it's kind of like they get a chance to go through and find stuff. And I have the books, I read as many books as they do. So I try and keep up with what they're reading. So I know what's out there and I can just immediately pick a book. There's really I've restructured my library. I know a lot of us are going through that right now. So it's more like walking into a bookstore. Everything's visual and you have genres as opposed to Dewey Decimal System, which is, on its way out, and screaming, but it's really, there's so many things we learned about the Dewey Decimal System. So it's just kind of, and that's how I look at books. I'm visual, I have to pick them up and look at them, right? And so many kids are. So it's kind of like, oh, if you can just pick it up and look at it and then put it down. So it's a different place. It's not the place where you have to be quiet anymore. It's not the place where you have to behave as, like, oh my gosh, got to tiptoe around. That's at least what this library is, and the kids love it. So
really a lot of what the library is about socialization. It is about finding things, and not just finding that book, but finding where it is that your passion lies. Because I love that you said a lot of kids say, I don't like to read. And the answer always is, you just don't like to read what you've had access to before. Let's just find you that book. Julie, you're with the older kids, the high schoolers. So what does that space mean for them?
It's much, I can echo a lot of what Lisa mentioned as far as socialization happens in the library. It's all about keeping variety, I think, variety of different activities for them. We have about 4 puzzles going. All of a sudden, puzzles are like the thing to do. We started one, and now people are asking, can we start another puzzle? So now we have all these boards that have puzzles on it. We have to bring them and put them aside after lunch so that they don't get messed up. And I just got a piano in the library. The performing arts were getting rid of this piano, and I was gonna take it for parts for art projects and stuff. But then when they wheeled it over to the library across campus, I realized it was playable and it was charming. And I thought, ooh, I'm just gonna see what happens. And we have many, many talented piano players here. And
cool.
So that's been beautiful. We have Doodle Day. We have, of course, they come in to print something that's due next period. We get a lot. Yeah. That's
I'm
pretty
glad
much,
to know that that's still consistent.
yeah, that's a constant. What else do we have? Events there like poetry slam, open mics, just all kinds of things to bring the kids in.
I love this. I love that it is so not what I think a lot of people expect. And it is so much tied to social development, and it's social development for everybody. So, one of the issues, and it's referenced in the article that we shared, and certainly something that I'm sure all of us have had conversations about, is something that's actually pretty horrifying, which are book bans, threats against librarians for what you're putting out, making available for students. This concept of reading lists that have been approved by certain committees in different states. As you both look around, and I want to see who jumps in first on this one. First of all, how does this make you feel here? Because I see so much joy when you both talk about your libraries, and then this is a very sort of dark side that is coming at a lot of people. It doesn't seem like anyone's really immune from it. How does it feel knowing that this kind of activity is actually picking up speed in the United States?
I've jumped in first all the time. Julie, you want me to jump in?
Jump in. I have to think a minute.
I have been very much involved in all of this because we did, as a district, we pulled some books. We did not ban them. We pulled them for the right reasons because we wanted to, this was our diversity, DEI portion. So books were pulled, and somewhere along the line with rumor control, they were told they were banned. So it went crazy. It went on to the news. It was listed in the papers. It was everything. That Burbank was banning books, which is not true. I was quoted out of context, and people were like, "You were on the news this morning." What? And it was, and I thought, wow. And it was all about them giving this particular company, oh, we'll give them a whole set of books because they're banning and pulling them. No books were pulled from any room or any library in the site libraries. They were paused is classroom curriculum. They were still available
Right.
to read. So it was miscommunication. It showed you how quickly the rumor control mill works without wanting to hear what actually was happening. That's the terrifying thing, right? So you have these companies that shall remain nameless, but you can find them anywhere you like, that have templates of how to write a letter about, I want this book banned, I want that book banned for this reason. And so many districts, we're lucky we're in a district that is open to for diversity, for including everyone. We are very, very lucky right now, but we still have people here who are upset with books, right? And there is a challenge process. There is actual process you have to go through when you challenge a book. You can't just automatically go, okay, some parent doesn't like it, we pull it. It doesn't work that way. So, so that's been it's been horrifying, because to me, I mean, there are books I don't approve of, about certain subject matter or whatever, but I can't pull them, I don't want, say for example, Mein Kampf or something, but if it's there, it has to be there,
Right.
Preface it, but you can say, this is definitely a point of view that I don't, you have to think about where it comes from, but it's just, it's so funny to me that people are just like, well, I don't want it for my kid, so I'm
so I want it for everybody.
Right. And I thought, and you go through it, and it's funny because there's so many contemporary books now that we're so lucky to have, that all reference, if there's some historical fiction where they were going through it in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. This is book banning controversy is not new by any stretch of the imagination. It's just kind of interesting to see where the focus always falls. The focus falls in different groups, and it's just it's fascinating to watch. And I wish people would read the books before they immediately against them, because I can tell immediately if they haven't read the book, because there's usually a lesson or some sort of fun. There's universal theme. There's something that everybody can relate to, and they're all just like, no, it's horrible. It's like, no, you didn't read the book. I can totally tell.
It's fascinating, as you say. You can just get this template of what the letter should sound like and which books they recommend. It is amazing to me how many articles I've read where people who have lodged these complaints have said, well, have you read the books that you're suggesting to be banned? And the answer typically is no, I didn't. So I have no context for it. Julie, how is this showing up for you? What are you observing? How does it feel?
Again, Lisa hit it on the head when it's horrifying. It's horrifying that this kind of thing. And again, very thankful that our district, me personally, our library here has not really experienced anything like that to this point. I know at least one elementary school in our district had some issues, some parents that caused a stir up there. I don't know if Lisa, if you know anything about that one. But reading is the way that we grow our, expand our personal knowledge. And it's natural for us to want to protect our children from dangers. And like, I wouldn't want my children to be reading something that glorifies a violent lifestyle. Right. No, I wouldn't. But is it my right to keep other people from reading that? No, it's not. And so I think that's where open dialogue with your children comes in, where if you don't want your child reading that, you need to have conversations with them to express your concerns, maybe hear why they want to read it, and have a dialogue about the topic rather than just shutting them off from it. Because they're going to be out there in a world, sometimes, yes, we want to protect our children from dangers, but the dangers, to some people, the dangers are as simple as someone being different, which is not a danger. And they're going to be out especially going through high school, we're trying to prepare them to be out in the world, in the working world, in the college world, with all kinds of people. And the way they're going to learn about them is by reading about them, experiences outside their lived experience. So
it's always interesting to me when people read books and they say, oh, I just couldn't relate. And sometimes I'm like, that's literally the point. You can't relate. It's about getting a window into someone else's life. That's the point.
Right.
lost on people. So, and Lisa, you said this earlier, this is obviously not the first time this has happened. There have been book bans. Every single generation can point to things. Every single year we've been observing Banned Book Week, which is essentially a reading list of exactly what you should consume in many respects, and some of the greatest books ever written. Where do you think this is going? It feels like what is happening is a little bit more organized than it has been in the past. Almost to the point that it feels like it's a little professional in some respects, that you kind of can order your Let's Ban a Book kit, for lack of a better term. Where do you see these things going? You both referenced that you were in a place that is pretty progressive, has been pretty inclusive on this conversation, but that's not the space everywhere. What are you hearing from other people? And if you had to take a look into maybe 5 years down the road, where do you think this goes?
I don't know. I hope that those areas will become more vocal, because the squeaky wheels are the ones getting up at the school boards, and they're the ones getting up at the school. Time to go. But so I think we need to be more vocal. So if you live in a school district, you can't just go, I can't make it to the school board meeting. I don't agree with this, but they're there to say whatever stuff they've read off an internet thing, or they've been told by somebody, or they've seen on a news program, that whatever it is, that they will be there to speak up, because they really feel very passionately about what they're saying. We need to be as passionate and as vocal. If we are, and I have so much hope in this young generation, because I have sixth graders come in who have asked for, who read the LGBTQ, or who are happy that those books are there, who are excited that they are, who ask for them, who follow an author or whatever and say, do you have this book? I mean, that to me is just, okay, you can't stop them from wanting that knowledge, or wanting to feel validated, or wanting to know about a friend, or whatever it is. I mean, it's just understanding, because they understand and care so much more about their fellow people. The word fellow, but their constituent, their own constituents, than adults. And adults are having the hardest time tweaking their brain to go, oh, well, maybe that was something I believed, but I no longer believe that, or I have this friend, and oh, it's this, I mean, it's just opening your mind, like you said, the door, the windows, the sliding glass, I mean, all that stuff. It's what it is, and that's what books do. I find it really difficult when I see authors who are now comfortable enough to write their memoirs about what they felt growing up as an LGBTQIA, whatever, as a different color and race and culture. And suddenly now we're publishing those. And then people come out and want to pull those books. And I'm like, well, you can't. Right. You're disregarding their life. That's their life. It doesn't go away. They're not going away by pulling a book. We're all here.
That's an amazing way to think about it. You're actually just trying to shut down somebody's life story. This isn't just a fiction that's floating out there. It's something that actually happened. Julie, I see you doing a lot of nodding and agreeing on this. You, especially because you have the older kids. Have you heard any of them talking about any of the things that are going on? Is there any frustration with the fact that their level of acceptance tends to be pretty ahead of other people's, and yet we are constantly hearing about these attacks on even stories about people who are a little bit different?
Right. Also, the high school kids ask for same thing as in the middle school. They ask for books by LGBTQ authors, or they ask for the latest memoir. But as far as hearing, I haven't really heard them speak directly about the controversy itself that's going on. They're just kind of in their own world doing their school day.
Yeah. So they're, but I love the fact that they're actually requesting these things, because I think there is often this narrative that those books have been put in there by some kind of activist, when in fact often these books have been put in there because the students have actually requested them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
And that very much is from your experience. So both of you have kind of touched on the reference of those who are kind of supporting some of these book bans and even leading some of these challenges. We like to give people stuff to do on this show. And I think that there are a lot of people who do watch this who are very frustrated by what's happening and who have started, becoming a little bit more vocal about it. And maybe, Lisa, we can start with you. Can you suggest one or two things that I think serve everyday activists, whether they are looking at their public library or maybe even supporting their school library, should be doing in the face of all of this controversy and noise that we are hearing right now? What are some ways that they should be making sure that they are heard?
Going to city council meetings, supporting your public library, going to school board meetings, supporting your school site libraries, being really understanding what their agenda is going to be for the day, right? So if you see what the agenda is for the week, because sometimes it may not be appropriate or whatever, but if you even writing a letter to the editor, I mean, any of the things, it's so simple. You can support your library. You can donate to your library, your public library, not your school libraries. We're good. But you can support authors that you can find out who those authors are who are banned in different places and support them. Read their books, buy their books for friends. It's simple things. There are so many great authors right now, and you'd be surprised at how ridiculous those are the ones that are being banned. Like Kelly Yang, for instance. I mean, she's writing her basically fictionalized memoir, though, but it was her life, and there's absolutely nothing in them to ban.
Right.
And people are pulling them. And I said, because some of these, I have these books. I've read these books. There's nothing in them to ban. They're great stories,
Yeah.
And again, they're not reading them to find out. They're not reading them. That's why.
No, and it's so funny. And they're just, it's just, you sit there and you go, this is ridiculous. And yes, there's some that have adult content, but there are those kids, and this is more for you, Julie, too, because it's high school. I have a weird, middle school is a weird dynamic, because you have the sixth grade who are, some of them are very advanced and very into every, issue now, but some of them are still, they're 11, they're still pretty innocent. So I have that, and I have the eighth graders, so we're already, whatever, we're eighth grade, we're 13, 14, we're adults now. So you've got, but they have their own experiences. So I kind of have to balance which books go where. So I do watch, if there's a kid that's thing, it's like, well, I need, permission from whoever your caretaker is, whatever it is.
Reasonably speaking.
Yeah, because I don't want them to get in trouble. I don't want to, are you ready for that? Or is this something you need? And so there are some kids that absolutely need to read about somebody like them. So, and that's what those books are for. Every kid, my mantra is that every kid should be represented in this library, whoever you are. And there's so many, we're all different. Everybody should have something that they can recognize and someone they can learn from. Like you said, learning about someone, right? It doesn't have to just be about you.
You don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
It's just learning people's existence. Julie, you kind of get the last word on this. What are a couple of things that people should be doing if they're hearing about some of what's going on out there and they're feeling angry about it? Can you build on what Lisa suggested?
As far as just supporting your library, use the library. Go to the public library and use it, and join the Friends of the Public Library organization and do what you can. Volunteer there. All the things Lisa said. I think number one is using the library and keeping the libraries open and relevant to their communities.
I love that. It seems so basic, use your library, but actually walk into the library and use those services or access those services online. I'm a big ebook borrower, constantly doing it. It's a huge value to me. All right, quickly, we have about a minute left that I can squeeze this in. I would love to know, what is one library book that both of you borrowed when you were much younger, when you were in school, that had a huge impact on you?
Oh, this is easy. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn was my absolute
favorite. It's like one of my favorite books in the whole world. I read mine so many times. I own a third copy because it fell apart. Julie, what about you?
I couldn't really think of just one. I would just say that even to this day, I grow every time I read something, and I feel like it impacts me in the way I respond to what I'm reading. It all goes into who I am.
I love that. I love that because the books do become part of who we are. Lisa, Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for not telling people shh in the library and making them really fun. I appreciate you both. Maybe when I'm out in your side of town, I'm going to have to come visit. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. We really appreciate you. And happy Library Week, too.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. And I want to compliment Erica and Elisabeth on that article. It was beautiful. Beautiful. And it really, truly got the essence of libraries in there. And I appreciate that.
I agree with you. If you haven't read the article, read it. Well, thank you, my friends. Hopefully we will get to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that wraps up another week of Something to Talk About Live. You know what? Your assignment for this week is go to the library, go borrow something. And if you don't have your card, go get your library card, just like I have mine. And say thank you to your librarian. We will be back again next week with another episode for you. Until then, we leave you the same way, reminding you to do 3 things, which are to run fast, laugh hard, and most of all, please be kind. And if you need any help, visit us at pflag.org. We'll see you next week, everyone.